Hi everyone, it's Mr. Barbier back with another video. Today's video is order of operations. Okay, so this is a very important topic. It's a topic in math that really carries over to all other content areas of math. So it's very important for you to understand order of operations very well in order to do any content area moving forward. Okay, whether it be algebra, geometry, functions, it doesn't matter. This topic is number one for all other topics moving forward in math. It's extremely important for you to master it. So let's get right into it. Here are the steps for order of operations. Step one, parentheses, okay, which means perform all or evaluate, let me say it that way, evaluate all expressions within parentheses first. Very important. Step two, exponents and roots. Perform these operations going from left to right. Exponents and roots are inverse operations. Step three, multiplication and division. Perform these operations also going from left to right. Why? Because they are also inverse operations. Addition and subtraction. Perform these operations going from left to right. Again, they are inverse operations. Let's remember, inverse, another word for that is opposite. Okay? Exponents and roots are opposites. Multiplication and division are opposites. Addition and subtraction are also opposites. Okay, and then we all know the memory aid for order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Basically, it's just a sentence to help us remember the steps of order of operations. Okay, so now that we have these steps, and I want to say a couple of things before we move on to our first problem. A common misconception about order of operations is that you always multiply first, then divide, and then you always add before you subtract. That is not the case. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, be very, very well aware of that right here, right now. PEMDAS is not 6 steps because it's 6 letters. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4 steps because you have pairs of operations that are inverse that fall under the same step. Okay, exponents and roots. Okay, when I say roots, I'm referring not just to square root, but there's other roots as well, right? You have cube root, you have fourth root, fifth root, sixth root, so it's not just square root. That's why we call this exponents and roots, right? They are opposites, they are inverse. Multiplication and division are opposites, inverse. Addition and subtraction are also opposites. I like to call these operations brother and sister. They're related to each other. Okay? So very simple, ladies and gentlemen. PEMDAS is not 6 steps. It's only 4 because the operations that are inverse or opposite to each other, we perform those operations going from left to right. Okay? We're going to do plenty of practice right here, right now. So I hope you all have a pen or pencil in your hand. I hope you all have a notebook ready because now we're going to get down to work. Let's do it. Okay, so first of all, this is your class worksheet. Okay, order of operations J. Okay, it says solve each expression using the correct order of operations, right? We're going to look at this first problem right here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I always tell students, first of all, if you don't have a printer, don't worry about it. There's no need for you to print out anything. Simply take out your notebook and write the problem out in your notebook where you have plenty of space. So look what I did. I took the first problem here, okay, and I wrote it in my notebook here. It gives me plenty of room to work, okay, plenty of space. Let me zoom in. All right. Now I can do the problem. Okay, First thing, ladies and gentlemen, first thing you should always do is you should always write your steps. You see this red margin right here? Inside the red margin, I'm going to write my steps for order of operations. Now, I'm going to do it in a very simple way. Watch me. Very simple way. Okay? All I'm going to do is write the letter for each operation. So, for example, I'm going to write step 1, P for parentheses. Okay? Step 2, E for exponents. I'm going to put a slash and then the square root symbol. Step 3, multiplication and division, going from left to right. That's what that arrow means. It means that in the problem, in the expression, I move from left to right when I see multiplication and division because they're inverse. Step 4, addition and subtraction, going from left to right in the problem itself, in the expression. Ladies and gentlemen, please do this. Have your steps written out. Why? So that you can use these steps as a guide when you get stuck. That's the point, okay? This is your guide. Many times I hear students say, Mr. Barbier, I get, to a certain point in the problem and then I get stuck. You know what my answer to that is? Start with step 1, parentheses, and then move down, right? This will help you when you get stuck. All right, let's do it. So, number 1 says 10 divided by, open parentheses, 3 squared minus 2 to the third power plus 4, close parentheses, times 7. Students will look at that and say, I don't know what to do. Very simple. Look here. Step 1 says P parentheses. Do you see parentheses in the problem? The answer is yes, you do. The parentheses are right here. So what we must do, ladies and gentlemen, is because parentheses is first in the problem, I must evaluate everything inside the parentheses until I get it down to one number. Right? Another word for evaluate is to solve. Now you might say, well, how do I know what to do first in the parentheses? You follow steps 2, 3, and 4 in this order within the parentheses. Okay? So inside the parentheses, you ask yourself, do I see exponents or roots? If the answer is yes, you do that first, right? Then, after you finish that, ask yourself, do you see multiplication or division within the parentheses? If so, you do those 2 operations next, going from left to right within the parentheses. Once you finish that, you move on to addition and subtraction and ask yourself, do I see that in the parentheses? If the answer is yes, I perform these 2 operations again, going from left to right within the parentheses. Again, I follow this order. Step 2, then step 3, then step 4, but within the parentheses because parentheses comes first. So therefore, I'm not looking at the 10 divided by, I'm not looking at the times 7. I'm not looking at that at all. All I'm looking at is what's inside the parentheses because parentheses comes first. And my goal is to get it down to one number. Okay, I hope you all have heard that very carefully. Okay, so somebody tell me, I'm listening very carefully because I can hear you. Tell me, please, what do I do first? Okay, I'm hearing someone say, Mr. Barbier, we're going to start with the parentheses, and inside the parentheses, I see an exponent here and an exponent here. And since exponents is step 2, I do that first. The answer is yes. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, so let's do that. Watch me. I'm going to draw a branch here for the 3, a branch here for the exponent 2. I'm going to connect the 2 branches and put my answer right here. Now, folks, listen to me very carefully. When students evaluate exponents, they often make mistakes. So I'm telling you, don't evaluate this in your mind. Do not do it mentally, no, unless you are very good at exponents and you're confident. Otherwise, you should do this. Take the 3 squared, write it off to the side of your problem, and solve it that way. So I have a very, very, very common saying: when in doubt, write it out. Okay? 3 squared means 3 times 3. Now, look what would have happened if you didn't write it out. You might have said to yourself, 3 squared, 6, because 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, that's incorrect. 3 squared means 3 times 3. 3 times itself equals what? Okay, someone just said 9. Very good. So over here, I put 9. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have 2 to the 3rd power. That's also an exponent. Again, work it out on the side. Yes, on the side. 2 to the 3rd power equals. How do I write that out? Someone tell me, please. Okay, someone just said 2 times 2 times 2. Let me ask a question. Tell me if I'm doing this correctly. 2, 4, 6. The answer is 6. Did I do that right? Okay, I'm hearing someone say no. Mr. Barbier, it's 2 times 2, which is 4. Drop the multiplication, drop the 2, and then continue working this out. And I get 4 times 2, which is, oh, it's 8. It's not 6. Folks, this is the reason why we work it out on the side, so that we don't make careless mistakes. All right? So 2 to the 3rd power is 8. And I'm going to put 8 right here. Okay, now, what do I do now? Ladies and gentlemen, very simple. Bring everything down. Bring down the subtraction, the parentheses, the division sign, the 10, the plus 4, the closed parentheses, the times, and the 7. And look what happens. As you work out a problem in PEMDAS, look at how my work, my expression gets smaller and it moves towards the center, right? So notice I didn't bring the 7 straight down. I didn't bring the 10 straight down. I moved it to the middle. And each time I work out the expression, right? Each time I work it out, it forms a V shape. That's how you know you're doing PEMDAS properly, when it's forming a V shape. Okay, never bring anything straight down. What you do is you bring it towards the center. That's what you do. Okay, let's get back to our steps. Someone just said, Mr. Barbie, I'm stuck. What do I do now? Go back to your steps. Start with step 1. Step 1 is parentheses. Did we finish solving everything in the parentheses? Look back. The answer is no. Right? We have not. We still have 9 minus 8 plus 4 in the parentheses. Wait, someone just said, wait, Mr. Barbie, wait a minute. Aren't you going to do the subtraction and addition last because it's step 4? Let me ask somebody else. Is that true? Do we do this last because it's step 4? Okay, someone just said no. Even though subtraction and addition is step 4, because it's inside the parentheses, it becomes step 1. Correct. Now, I have another question. Do I do 8 plus 4 right now because I always add before I subtract? What do you think? Okay, someone just said, no, Mr. Barbier, that's the way I used to do it. But now I know that because subtraction and addition are related, because they're inverse operations, they're opposites, that arrow tells me that I must go from left to right. Is that right? Yes, it is right. You are correct. Very good. So I'm going to evaluate 9 minus 8, not 8 plus 4. Again, subtraction and addition are opposites. Because subtraction is on the left side of the problem, addition is on the right side of the problem, I do the subtraction first. Okay? What's 9 minus 8, somebody? Someone just said 1. That is correct. Let's bring everything else down. Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate again and say my next step is 10 divided by 1. Is that correct? Okay, someone just said no, Mr. B. Okay, so tell me, what's my next step? Oh, it's 1 plus 4? How come? Because it's still inside the parentheses? Oh, okay. Okay, you're right. Thank you. Question, can I now drop the parentheses because I got my expression down to one number? The answer is yes. Yes, very good. I can. Okay, I have it down to one number. I don't need the parentheses anymore. The only way I would need to keep the parentheses around the 5 is if I had a number touching the parentheses on the outside of the parentheses. So let me explain what I mean. Imagine there was an exponent right here. Okay, then I would keep the parentheses. Imagine there was a number touching the parentheses here. Like imagine it was like 10 divided by 2, and then after the 2 is open parentheses, a 2 right here in between the division and the parentheses, a number 2. Then I would keep the parentheses around the 5 because the 5 touching the 2 would indicate multiplication, right? But since there's nothing touching the parentheses on the outside of it, meaning an exponent to the right or a number to the left, I don't need the parentheses anymore. Okay, just want to make that very, 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 very clear. Okay, bring down. Okay, here's where I am. Now, folks, I just heard someone say, Mr. Barbier, I got to this part, but now I'm stuck. What's my answer to that? Someone just said it. Look back at the steps. Start with step 1. Do you see parentheses in the problem anymore? No. Very good. Do you see exponents or roots in the problem anymore? No. Very good. Do we see multiplication and division? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay, so what do we do next? All right, I heard someone say, Mr. Barbier, you're going to do 5 times 7 because multiplication always comes before division no matter what. Is that correct? Okay, someone just said, wait a minute, no, Mr. B. Again, I used to think that was the problem, that was the case, but now, based on what you taught me, isn't division and multiplication, aren't they opposites of each other? Also known as inverse operations? Yes, and because they're inverse and they're both step 3, doesn't that arrow tell me to go from left to right? Correct. Correct, correct, correct. Very good job. So what are we going to do? We're going to divide, right? Because division's on the left and multiplication's on the right and they're inverse, I must go from left to right. What's 10 divided by 5? Okay, someone just said 2. Very good. And now bring down the times 7. And now finish the problem off. 2 times 7 is somebody? Okay, someone just said 14. Very, 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 very good. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. That's our first problem. Now, folks, I want to say something to you, okay? As we do more problems, we're going to move a little bit faster now that I know you've got the steps down. Okay, we're going to go a little bit faster. So let's move on to another problem from the classwork. Here it is. Okay, here it is. So we have 7 divided by, open parentheses, 10 minus 6 plus 3 times 9 squared plus 8. Okay, so let's do this. Now, folks, please follow me We are going to write what first? Okay, yes, we're going to write our steps first. Very good. What are our steps? Step 1, parentheses. Step 2, exponents and roots. Step 3, multiplication and division, going from left to right. Step 4, addition and subtraction, going from left to right. Have your steps written down, ladies and gentlemen, so that you can be guided as you do the problem, okay? Have your steps written down. All right, now let me hear you tell me what to do. As a matter of fact, if you're feeling confident, you know what I like to say all the time, right? I say, pause the video, you do the problem, all right? So do that right now. If you're feeling confident, if you think you got this, pause the video, you do it, then unpause the video to see if your answer is correct. Do it right now. Okay, I'm gonna assume you've unpaused the video and you're ready to see if your answer is correct. Okay, let's do it. You tell me, what do I do first? I'm listening. Okay, so I'm going to say, Mr. B, we're going to do parentheses first because that P means parentheses first. You are correct. So let me do what I always do. I'm going to try to, confuse you by playing devil's advocate. I'm going to say, in the parentheses, we're going to do 6 plus 3 first because addition always comes before subtraction. What do you say to that? Okay, someone just said, nope, Mr. Barbier, you can't trick me. You can't trick me. I know that subtraction and addition are inverse, they're opposites, therefore I must go from left to right. You got it. Okay, you got it. Thank you. So let's do that. 10 minus 6 is what? Okay, someone just said 4. Very good. And I'm going to bring down the 7 and bring down the division sign and bring down the open parentheses and bring down the plus and bring down the 3 and bring down the closed parentheses times open parentheses. Wait, stop here for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another set of parentheses. So guess what? Don't just bring all of this straight down. Since we solved this first in these parentheses, let's just start solving something in these parentheses to save a little time, right? We don't have to bring all of this straight down, right? Parentheses must be evaluated first. So we evaluated one step of these parentheses. Let's evaluate one step from these parentheses to save time. Yes? Yes. Okay, good idea. So you have an exponent here and you have an addition sign here. Well, look at your steps. Which one comes first in PEMDAS, exponents or addition? Okay, someone just said, Mr. Barbier, it's exponents. Exponent step 2, addition is step 4. You are correct. We're not going to add yet. We're going to evaluate the exponent first. So let's evaluate 9 to the second power. How do we do that? Oh, someone just said, Mr. B, I don't want to make a mistake. So we're going to do 9 squared on the side. And we're going to write it out. Because when in doubt, we write it out. You're right. 9 times 9 equals what? Okay, I heard someone say 18. Is that correct? No, right? What is it? It's 81. Be careful, we're multiplying 9 by itself, not 9 times 2. So let's go back over here, and 9 squared is 81. Bring down the plus, bring down the 8, and don't forget to close the parentheses. Very important. Okay, Mr. Barbier, I just heard someone say, Mr. Barbier, I'm stuck. What do I do? When you're stuck, ladies and gentlemen, go back to your steps, starting with step number 1. Are we done with parentheses? Okay, I just heard someone say, no, Mr. Barbier, we still have to finish this and finish this until we get it down to one number. You're right. Let's do it. Okay, let's do it. So someone tell me 4 plus 3. Someone just said 7. Good. What about 81 plus 8? Someone just said, Mr. Barbier, I'm going to try that one mentally. I think it's 89. Yes, you're right, 89. Now, folks, watch me very carefully. Watch me. Here's what's going to happen. We finally got the expression inside the parentheses down to one number, and there's nothing touching the parentheses on the outside of the parentheses. Therefore, I don't need the parentheses anymore. I can eliminate them. Okay? Bring down the division sign. Bring down the 7. Bring down the multiplication sign. Okay? And good. Now we have our expression. Okay? Folks, if you're stuck, what should I do? Someone say it for me. What should I do? Okay, someone just said, Mr. Barbier, look back at the steps, starting with step number 1, okay? And say to yourself, do I have anything, like, what do I do next? Starting with step number 1. Do I have parentheses? No. Do I have any more exponents or roots? No. Do I see multiplication and division in the problem? The answer is yes, okay? All right, here's devil's advocate time again. You ready for me? Devil's advocate time. I'm going to say 7 times 89 is next because you always multiply before you divide in PEMDAS. Is that correct? Wait a minute. Someone just said, no, Mr. Barbier. No, because you just taught us that since division and multiplication are opposites, right? They're related, they're inverse operations. That arrow tells me that I must go from left to right in the problem. Thank you, you are correct. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to divide 7 divided by 7 first and get what? Okay, someone just said 1, very good. I'm going to bring down the multiplication symbol. I'm going to bring down the 89. And now someone finish it for me. Okay, someone just said 1 times 89 because 1 times any number is the other number, basically, the number itself. So my final answer is 89. And ladies and gentlemen, if you got 89 before I demonstrated this problem to you, give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a pat on the back. You got it. Okay, you got it. Good job. Good job. We're going to look at one more problem, one last problem before we end it. Before we look at the problem, I want to teach you a quick little something that I like to call the parentheses family. Okay, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. You might say, Mr. Barbier, what is the parentheses family? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here it is. The parentheses family is made up of 3 members. Okay, the parentheses family is made up of 3 family members, and here they are. We have parentheses, which goes on the inside, right? The innermost parentheses are called parentheses. But when you have a math problem that includes parentheses, but then another set of parentheses outside the parentheses, those parentheses are called brackets. Now, brackets are best drawn with sharp edges like this, kind of like a piece of a square or rectangle, right? Okay, notice you have the open brackets this way, closed brackets this way. And now some PEMDAS problems go even longer than that. They'll have parentheses on the inside, okay? They'll have brackets on the outside, and then they'll have another set of parentheses outside the brackets. And those parentheses are called braces, okay? So some problems, not the ones in your homework for this assignment, but some problems will have parentheses with an expression inside the parentheses. Then outside the parentheses, they'll have another set of parentheses, and those parentheses are called brackets. And then if they want to make the problem really long, they'll have another set of parentheses called braces. But ladies and gentlemen, all three of these family members are still considered parentheses, which means that you must do all of them for step 1 of PEMDAS, meaning solve what's inside the parentheses first. Now work your way from inside out, and now solve what's inside the brackets second, and then until you get it down to one number, right? And then you solve what's inside the braces last, if you have all three family members for the parentheses family. All right, let's look at a problem from your classwork that had 2 sets of parentheses. And it's this problem right here. Boom. Okay? Now, I know many of you looked at this problem and said, wait a minute, I have no idea what to do. Because you're looking at these double parentheses right here. And you're like, Mr. Barbier, I'm confused. Well, here's what I want you to do. Okay? Before we write our PEMDAS steps on the side right here, let's rewrite this problem so that we are not confused. Let's take this problem and do this. Now follow me, ready? We're gonna keep the 2 to the 3rd power. So I'm gonna, let me skip a space. I'm gonna write 2 to the 3rd power minus 6 times, now stop here for a second. Instead of writing, see how I have inside parentheses here and then outside parentheses here? I don't want to do that because that looks confusing. I'm going to keep the inside parentheses, right? But for the outside parentheses, let's use a member of the parentheses family called brackets, because brackets goes outside of parentheses. In other words, brackets groups parentheses inside of the brackets. Okay? Parentheses goes inside, brackets go outside. These parentheses will stay inside for the 4 plus 9. But for this outer parentheses, I'm going to change it to brackets so that visually I'm not confused. Okay? I hope everybody's following me with that. Now let me continue with the rest of the problem. Open parentheses, 4 plus 9, close the parentheses, divided by open parentheses, 8 plus 5, close the parentheses, and now wait a minute, like with any set of parentheses, if you have open brackets, you must have back here closed brackets. You see, I don't want to do this double parentheses. No, I'm going to have my closed brackets. And there it is. Now you might say, Mr. Barbier, but you know what? You have different color pens. I don't. That's okay, ladies and gentlemen. That's why when you draw brackets, the shape is different, right? This is like a C. This is a curve, right? This is a curve. Brackets are not a curve. They're sharp edges. So visually, it looks different. Therefore, it'll be easier to solve. Okay, let's do it. Here we go. So follow my steps for PEMDAS. Remember, write the steps on the side. Let's do that right now. So I'm going to have step 1, parentheses, step 2, exponents and roots, step 3, multiplication, division, going from left to right, and step 4, addition and subtraction, going from left to right. Let's follow our steps as we do this problem. Okay? Step 1, parentheses. We have brackets, right? But then we have our inner parentheses as well. So when we say step 1 is parentheses, we're going to work our way inside. And then after we get this down to one number and this down to one number, we won't need the inner parentheses anymore. And then we solve what's inside the brackets second. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. 4 plus 9, yes? Would that be my first step, somebody? Someone said, yes, Mr. Barbier, because that's my inner parentheses, right? We're going to work our way inside out. Inside the curved parentheses first, then solve what's inside the brackets, the red brackets second, okay? Someone tell me, what's 4 plus 9? Okay, someone just said 13, very good. Because I got the parentheses down to one number and there's nothing touching the parentheses, I can eliminate the parentheses. Drop the division sign. And folks, this is parentheses as well. Just like we did before. If we solve this down to one number, let's solve this down to one number also. Let's save a little time. What's 8 plus 5? Someone just said 13. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, parentheses eliminated. Why? Down to one number, down to one number. But guess what? We must keep the what? We must keep the brackets. We must keep the brackets. Very good. Bring down the times, bring down the 6, bring down the subtraction, the 2 to the third power. Okay, now I'm going to play devil's advocate again. You ready? And I'm going to say, okay, my next step is 2 to the third power because exponents is step 2. Is that correct? Okay, someone just said, no, Mr. Barbier. You're not done with parentheses yet, step 1. What do you mean? Brackets are part of the parentheses family. Therefore, we must solve what's inside the brackets before we move on to exponents because brackets is part of parentheses, which is step 1. You are correct. Thank you for that correction. So let's do it. 13 divided by 13 is what? Someone just said 1. Very good, because any number divided by itself is equal to 1, except 0 divided by 0. And now let's bring down the multiplication sign, and the 6, and the subtract, and the 2, and the exponent 3. Someone tell me again, do I need to keep the red brackets around the 1? Okay, someone just said, no, Mr. B, because you know what? You got it down to one number, and there's nothing touching the parentheses on the outside of the parentheses. There's no exponent here, and there's no number to the left of the parentheses indicating multiplication. So I don't need the brackets anymore. Correct. Correct. Okay, I just heard someone say, Mr. Barbier, you know what? I'm stuck right now. I don't know what's next. What do I tell that person? Someone tell me what that person should do. Okay, someone just said, Mr. B, that person, whenever they get stuck, should look back at their steps. Starting with step number 1. Step 1, do you see any more parentheses? Meaning any member of the parentheses family? No, right? Do we see step 2, any exponents or roots? Yes, there's an exponent right there. We must evaluate that next, correct? So let me draw my branches for the 2 and for the exponent 3, okay? And now, as I always say, when in doubt, somebody repeat it, please, before I say it. When in doubt, let me hear you. Okay, good. Someone just said, write it out. Good. You could also say, work it out if you want. What am I writing out? 2 to the third power equals what? Okay, someone just said 2 times 2 times 2. Here we go, devil's advocate time. I think the answer is 2, 4, 6. Is that right? No. Good. What is it? 2 times 2 is what? 4. 4 times 2 is what? 8. Very good. Come back to the problem. Let's write our answer right here. 8. Let's drop the subtraction sign. Let's drop the 6. Let's drop the times. Let's drop the 1. Okay, here we go. What do I do next? Okay, someone just said, Mr. B, we're going to go left to right. 8 minus 6 is 2. Does everybody agree with that? Oh, wait a minute. Someone just said, Mr. Barbier, no. We can't go left to right because subtraction and multiplication are not inverse. They're not opposites. They're not related. Thank you. Thank you for that correction. You are correct. Subtraction and multiplication are not opposites. We do not go left to right. So what do? Someone just said we're going to multiply 6 times 1. That is correct because multiplication is step what, somebody? Step 3, yes. And subtraction is step 4. What is 6 times 1? Someone just said 6. Very good. Bring down the subtraction sign. Bring down the 8. And now finish the problem. And the answer is what, somebody? The answer is 2. Very good, very good, very good. There we have it. So ladies and gentlemen, there it is. We just did 3 problems from the classwork. Okay, we just did 3 problems from the classwork. You should feel very, very confident right now. You should feel like you've got this. I think you've got this. All right, no need for you to worry, no need for you to be, concerned. You can always rewind some parts of this video, okay? And as a last resort, ladies and gentlemen, please message me via Google Classroom, private comments, all right, if you're having trouble, and I will get back to you as soon as possible to set up a one-on-one Zoom session, and we can work on some problems together. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our video. Please complete these problems, order of operations J for homework, for classwork, okay? And then complete these problems, order of operations I for homework, okay? 6 problems here, all right, for homework. There it is, all right? Please, as always, give me your best effort. That's all I ask, okay? And trust me, little by little, you will get better at math, all right? It's going to happen, but you have to trust the process and you have to give me effort. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.